I then try to
Screen
get help.
together too on Twitch, but
Diddy's
I
lawyer
didn't get
says
that far.
the time after Sandberg.
I love my baby when she is on it. Even though she really feels on it. I don't speak on it. Oh, I don't speak on it. Oh, baby when she is on it. Oh, she really fake on it. Oh, I like my baby when she is on it.
We don't go use it. Show up live.
Boom, boom, boom.
Central and West Africa.
Boom, boom,
It's been
boom,
used for centuries in traditional African
boom.
medicine to treat various ailments, including addiction, anxiety, and depression. Okay. And it's you can use it as psychedelic. All right.
Nah, there's a
They asked,
Kimbo
where
on
did you
some
get it?
other
She
shit
said,
I seen
Cancun,
too.
Mexico, separately. Estavo then says, when Mr. Combs threw you off the boat in Kansas, when he accused you of taking drugs and squeezed your leg, Ventura says, among other things. Estavo says, but you still want to be there, right? Cassie says, yeah, I still want to be there. Estavo says, switching topics. When you say Mr. Combs went and got his guns to find Suge Knight, did you remember telling the government that if you went with him? She said, no. Gustavo says, let me show you. AUSA says, hey, just for part. So it looked like they're showing maybe a debriefing session or a interrogation session between
Yeah, I'm
Cassie
good on that.
and the government. This is like probably a pre-cooperation thing where they probably got her to put on an affidavit A, B, C, D, and E that later on when she testifies, they know what she would say. Right? So it looked like
Yeah, I
the
got that
story
already.
changed and they noticed it.
I unlocked that already. That
She
Kimbo for that.
claimed when she did the debriefing with the government that she went with Diddy with the guns to go find Suge Knight. Now we'll find out. No, she didn't. Ventura says, I didn't go with
I got about for the pistol.
So I don't think I said that. Bones Gustavo says, you did drugs with Miss
I got
Morgan,
both
right?
that Kimbos for both the
He
pistols.
said, yes, Miss Morgan would be carrying it. That was her best friend. Gustavo says, do you recall telling the government that you did not set what he did? Huh? You don't. Did you recall telling the government you did not remember what he did? Hitting her in the head with a wooden hammer? I don't know. It's a weird question. Right. He says, I saw the hanger. I saw you was angry that I was doing drugs with her. This broke up your 7-year friendship with her, right? That's what the police says. She says it did. Gustavo said, did you tell Holmes about your relationship with your now husband? She said no. So basically she's admitting that when she was fucking on the trainer, Diddy never knew. Gustavo says Mrs. Morgan sued you and Mr. Combs. Ventura says, yes, she made a demand. Gustavo says, and you paid part of that? Cassie said, I did. Gustavo says, and you haven't spoken with her since? Ventura says, maybe one text. Gustavo says, that was the relationship. She said, yes. So basically, Diddy gets upset that Cassie's doing drugs. It looked like Diddy always wanted Cassie to do drugs with him. They were drug partners, like they were get high partners, as he called it. And it appears that when Diddy found that she was doing drugs with her best friend, Diddy got mad, threw a wooden hanger, and hit the friend. And the friend stopped being cool with Cassie because she looked at it like Cassie wasn't standing up for her and wasn't standing up to Diddy. So she then later sued or threatened to sue, and I guess there was either a settlement, I would imagine a settlement, and part of the settlement was paid by Cassie, I guess the rest by Diddy. Okay? Gustavo says, you'd heat up the baby oil, wouldn't you? Ventura says yes. Gustavo says, now, is this the day before the Intercontinental Hotel incident? I guess they won't be shown that image or something. AUSA Johnson says, hey, hold on. It's a long document, we need a read, right? They took a break. Right? After they took a break, they come back at 4:08. He says, we're in the home stretch of the day. Let's get our jury back. Gustavo then says, is this from March 4?
Yeah, that's a trash.
Says, with UC
Some nigga, I seen some nigga with the dark matter frying
Gustavo
pan.
says,
What?
Mr. Combs refers to accessories. Cassie says for the premiere. So it looked like they're showing her something of her being at some movie premiere, right? Gustavo says, hey, did you send him an explicit message? Cassie says, yes. Gustavo says, he responded with a number of M's, right? He wrote, too bad.
I'm gonna keep it a bean.
LOL. Cassie
I don't
says, yes.
use
So Cassie is
optics no
showing
more.
that her and Diddy was texting. She
Oh,
has to go
that's
to the
beneath
premiere,
me now.
But her and Diddy are flirting, talking about still fucking. You get what I'm saying? Now, this
Yeah,
is
I
gonna be
don't use
interesting.
it no more.
He says this was the day before this.
I know you're thirsty. Give me a
When
second.
was the incident? When was the incident?
Try to bump rush the refrigerator. For what? Wait.
That incident was the 5th. Okay, so before, it looks like they're establishing that Cassie and Diddy were talking freely.
Get my soda and we out.
He wrote, too bad you have to work. You did. So you ask him, are you feeling better? Then he's discussing bodily functions. Yes.
Guys, I can't play. I can't
Cassie
play.
says, could you?
Got my soda.
It's gonna use
We was winning the game, right? We was winning the game. The point guard left. Try to third quarter. Try to three. You know, mind you, no,
Who
hold
spoken
on.
with an angel,
Fourth quarter, last
showed me a
points.
way to be a mother
Y'all
again.
pass the ball? What are you doing here?
That should be torturous, bro. I can't do that shit.
We can bring her back.
You're up.
So,
Say that.
coordinated universal time or UTC is
change
5
my
hours
skin
ahead
real
of
quick.
Eastern Standard Time, right? And it is 8 hours ahead of Pacific Standard Time. So that's very important. So if you're going on what time it would be in LA, you have to add 8 hours to it, right? So that's why they're saying A bleeds into the next day. That's why they're saying that. Gustavo says, Mr. Combs went to your premiere lunch at London Hotel, right? Ventura says he did. Gustavo says, then he says,
Alright.
I got out of a spiritual therapy session. Ventura said, I asked, how did it go? He said it's a process. They're kind of reading off text messages here, people. This is leading up to the hotel incident. Gustavo says, you say, baby, I want to freak off so bad. Oh, shit. So Cassie is bringing this up. So Gustavo says, you say, baby, I want to freak off so bad.
Baby.
You were asking
Baby,
in your direct and said
Look at Tom.
you
You get
didn't
it.
want him to ruin your premiere. Cassie says, sure. Now this is where you start to realize they're starting to like, they're taking that ice pick to the ice and they're kind of like chipping away at it. Her answers it's always like, yeah, if that's what it says, or sure. It's like she's like confident a bit, rather than being confident like, yes, as I've always said, you know? Gustavo says, Mr. Combs says if we start at 7 and go till 4, you could get enough rest after. Holy shit. How many hours is that? That's a 9-hour freak off? Yo, planning a 9-hour fuck session is crazy, bro. Scheduling the fuck session is crazy. Niggas starting at 7 and wanting to finish at 4 is crazy. Gustavo says, everybody good? Everybody good? You gotta make sure y'all good in here, man. Okay. Gustavo says he's saying it'll be shorter than the usual freak off, right? Ventura says that's how I would understand it. Gustavo says, what did you say? Ventura, Cassie says, Carrie is here. We can't do it at my house. So it looked like at this point, the freak offs has gotten so much, you know, advanced. They're not only doing it in hotels. Cassie's even down to do it at the crib. Gustavo says, you say that guy is sick. I'm not gonna ask you what you meant. Somebody might be burning, Jack. then says, so you were turning to Johnny. Was he a dancer or an escort? Cassie says, we hired him as a dancer. Chat, I think what's happening here, a bunch of these niggas were getting, they were getting a bunch of, they were getting some disease. You could tell. I think for sensitivity, they're not saying all that shit. Honestly, bro, niggas is burning up and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like they were freaking off, and it was like, the freak off was like Uno for STDs. Draw 4. You get what I'm saying? All type of shit was going on in the motherfucking freak offs, right? So here we go. It says, okay, so they were going to another guy. It says, was he a dancer and escort? Cassie says, we hired him as a dancer, but he did what an escort does. Gustavo says, you remember at the beginning of this freak off in the Intercontinental Hotel? Cassie says, not really.
I read it up.
Very interesting. She had shaky memory. All right, whatever. So Gustavo says, the drugs were bad. MDMA, right? Cassie says, I have no idea. Gustavo says, no, the judge says it's 5 o'clock. Jurors, you may go home. Don't look at anything about the case. Blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. Then I think they're trying to do some procedural shit. So they dismissed for the day yesterday. Says, thank you, Ms. Ventura. No discussion with the government. We'll see you tomorrow. Everybody else be seated. Judge says, how much more? So he's trying to ask Diddy's lawyer, how much more? And she says, let me check. AUSA Johnson says, half an hour on redirect. They're asking for time. And the Filio says, we'll figure it out tomorrow. The judge says, have your next witness ready tomorrow.
I keep leveling up all these other guns. It's like, nah, I'm going for my dark matter. I need to lock in.
Someone needs to email the court.
I can't let this game go by and I ain't get one dark matter.
Now we're done with yesterday. I think in the afternoon, nothing too crazy other than the whole Kid Cudi thing. That's probably the only thing that, and also the fact that when she's Diddy,
that's what I'm saying. I stop every time I get to Opal.
really find nothing too crazy out.
I'll stop when I get to Opal. The gun I'm on now is on Opal. We're finishing that.
Freak off was Cassie's idea.
It ends here. Like, we're not gonna keep playing this ring around the
I
nah.
want to freak
It
off
ends here.
so bad. Look, you say, baby, I want to freak off so bad. When she was asked about this in her direct, she made it seem
here.
I gave him a freak off that he didn't ruin my premiere. I needed. She was describing Diddy as some monster that you had to make happy that he wouldn't ruin your life or he wouldn't ruin any opportunities that you had. But what it might be the opposite. It looked like she wanted to do the freak off, and he would try to figure out, okay, let's figure out where you could go to your premiere, get enough sleep for that, and we could still get at least, you know what I mean? They're calling 9-hour freak off. They said that was a short freak off. Jesus Christ. Yo, I hope they used to tip the people in the hotels who had to clean up after freak off. It gotta be mad disgusting. Astroglide, lube, baby oil, butt plugs, fecal matter, pee, like all type of shit, period blood, like all, like semen crust after it's dried up, probably flaked off Diddy's nipples. Like, this shit was nasty. Okay. All right, so now we're back to today, right? We're back to today, and we're going over the entire day today, right? So cool. Cassie hasn't taken a stand yet. They're going through some more issues, blah, 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 blah. Now they put Cassie on the stand, right? They asked him, do you think he was blacked out during the Intercontinental event? She said, I believe he was intoxicated, right? But everyone's definition is different. So she says, I don't know if he's blacked out, but I know he was like a little bit lit. Slavo says, well, what did you write here? I said, when you get fucked up. So she basically, they're cross-referencing with some of her text messages where she's admitting that she told Diddy, when you get fucked up, you act crazy, right? And they said, you mean drugs? She says, an alcohol. She says, here, Mr. Combs, right to you, I'm so horny for you. AUSA says not in evidence. Then he says, here, Mr. Combs is asking you for sex. Soon after the Intercontinental incident, Cassie says, I was saying who he felt. Huh? Or was she saying, I was saying what he felt? Anyway. Mustafa says, what did you write back? She said,
I gotta open 20 doors, and I ain't open one yesterday.
Friday at the Intercontinental Hotel.
partial.
So look like after the Intercontinental Hotel where he beats her ass, right? Remember, this idea of this hotel footage is that she was trying to escape. Yo, she was trying to get out of there. This was like her last. This was like Toby running away from the plantation. You get what I'm saying? If you're trying to run away from the freak off there, you're not coming back to do it again, right? It looks like they get cool, and then they basically say, yo, we need, it looks like it's within the same week because they mentioned the date, right? You would mention the date if it's not the same week. Ventura or Cassie says, we need a different vibe, other like than what happened Friday at Intercontinental. What does that say, Chad? It says that even though this quote-unquote brutal beatdown, a couple days later, she was ready to do the freak off again. She just wanted a different vibe.
Yeah, they can use Percoholic too. That's how I know he's staying.
Oh, shit. Yo. It's good.
Yo.
Nigga, I'm on stream.
Yo. You on stream?
Yeah, you want me to hit you after?
Yeah. Hit me after.
Or you
Yo,
want me to
bro,
text you?
if I don't get to call you, happy birthday, you heard?
Nah, I appreciate you, my G. Appreciate you, man. How you?
And is your show, was your show yesterday?
Yeah, the shit was lit, nigga.
Damn, bro, my bad fucking, I got the probation shit.
I know.
Yo, if anything, call me after the stream.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you after the stream.
Yeah, bless. Everybody use Percoholic. Niggas not playing.
I mean,
Just get my other gun now. We ain't gonna waste no time.
Shout out to my man 6ix9ine. W to 6ix9ine. Shout out to my man. Okay, somebody said happy birthday. You heard? That's such a New York thing. You heard? All right, come on. Let's lock in, Chad. All right, so look like within the same week, Diddy's asking her for sex. By the way, let me also put this into perspective for everybody who's kind of watching, and I want to hear you guys' opinion. I'm gonna look in the chat, see what you guys think about this.
I don't know what this is.
Here, think about this, Jack. It appears that, and tell me if you think it helps or hurts Diddy. It feels like most of their communications were done in email and text. So you would see Diddy ask for sex, like, yo, let's fuck. Right? Rather than get on the phone and there might not be a record of it.
That's what I'm talking about.
So they have all these text messages. And these text messages kind of show step by step what their conversation's like. I think it helps them. The more text messages that exist shows that, hey, all right, after the fight, they're still communicating, they're still talking.
Are you looking for a rewarding union job in New York City? We're hiring youth development specialists to supervise and support young people in detention. The starting salary is over $53,000, plus you can earn overtime. Health insurance, sick, and vacation pay are included. You may also be eligible for student loan forgiveness, and NYC residency is not required. Join our team as a youth development specialist. Learn more at NYC.
This Clampo gun pack, I would use this shit for the mad long, because I got all blues in here and I got too much of this shit.
Jesse, Royal Kingdom's finally out. I've been waiting for this game forever. What are you even saying? Eric, would you please stop parking on my lawn?
Dude, Royal Kingdom. It's a brand new puzzle game that just came out, and guess what? No ads.
They actually made games with no ads?
Insane, right? Don't worry, already downloaded it for you.
Wait, how'd you get my phone?
I also have your keys and your wallet. Took a 20. Okay.
How'd you get my phone?
I don't actually know. I feel like you left it last time you were over. Don't worry about it. I have people. Download Royal Kingdom
And join us today.
Some other shit. I don't know what's going on. Listen, I don't even want to do that again. Are they talking about just the violence? The fighting? They're not. They're also this idea that maybe she went to his phone or blah 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 blah. They're not also addressing the issue, right? It looks like they just got over it. Like they just chalked it up to that's some drunk shit. That's some drunk shit, right? It's a fuck Friday. I don't even want to do that again. So what'd you write? Say, I wrote, LOL, true. Gustavo says, Mr. Combs suspected you of having an affair with someone else in the industry. What happened when he took your phone? Ventura says, we were in the car, and he told me to call my mother. When I did, he grabbed my phone and took it. It was a big fight. He was just gone. For how long? He says, for a few hours until my mother called the police. Gustavo says, did Mr. Combs go through your phone? She says, I think so. And he called someone on it. Gustavo says, the person you had an affair with was an NFL player, right? She says, I don't know if he's playing anymore. And Gustavo says, but it was an NFL player though, right? And he was jealous. Gustavo says, wasn't there a time he found out you were dancing with another person in the music industry and he took your phone? She says, I don't remember. Gustavo says, come on, you know it was Chris Brown. Stop lying. She says, nah, I wasn't dancing with him. Gustavo says, all right, check this out. Look at this. It's from 2013. She says, ooh, okay, you got it. You got it. Now I see it. Yeah, you're right. So, again, maybe her memory is failing her, or maybe this goes into the idea that she was completely in a drugged out state and her memory is really inconsistent. Regardless, I still think this helps Diddy, because the more you prove that she is inconsistent with her recollection of what happened, you could then keep further hammering home the point that these fine details of quote-unquote abuse or this control that would come from these very small but nuanced things that played a part into this control sex trafficking narrative that Diddy has, she might not remember that either, or she might be remembering it incorrectly. Okay? She says, what else did Mr. Combs take? Says, he took my car, my passport when he was angry. Gustavo says, let's refresh you about Mr. Combs being in rehab. She says, I vaguely remember. That's interesting. Cassie can't remember shit now. She vaguely remembered. Combs says, Gustavo says, why did you go to Sedona? Ventura says, I went to Arizona to get away from the drugs. Gustavo says, I'm going to go to a new topic.
Wow, I didn't even know you could get up here.
Mr. Combs told you to get the video you heard about. What did you write? I wrote, you putting me down. Gustavo says, I'm going to play you some audio. Ventura says, this is the audio saying, yo, if you saw a video of someone fucking me, who was fucking me? You have it? Why didn't you show me? Because I'm not disrespectful, bro. And Cassie says, oh, yeah, Cassie says, if you don't show me, I will kill you, cut you up. Oh, shit. The audio is still being played. Ventura says, I will fucking kill you. Never killed no one ever in my life. I'm gonna fuck you up, and it's not gonna be blood on my hands. Somebody else is gonna kill you. I'm not playing with you, Sujit. Tell me. Combs, Gustavo, so Combs' lawyer says, that's you, right? She says, yeah. Gustavo says, did Mr. Combs express concern about these videos being released? So apparently, some people got some videos of her. And she was calling around and trying to figure out how they got the video and basically threatening these people. He said, did Mr. Combs express concern about these videos being released? Ventura says, when? Gustavo says, ever. Cassie says, yes. Gustavo says, the escort Jonathan. You thought he took a video? Remember, part of the settlement, the $5 million the dude claimed he got. He said he got the video to sign an NDA that he can't talk about him contracting herpes from them, allegedly. Can't sue them civilly for contracting this disease, and also he had to turn over videotapes. He had to turn it over. And remember, he even claimed they accidentally returned him the videotapes. So Ventura says yes. It says Mr. Combs spent a lot of money to make sure that video didn't get released, right? She says, I don't know. Gustavo says, you had a conversation with Jonathan Odie that was transcribed.
What's up, Sophia?
Ventura says, I'm not sure.
You cool, man?
Gustavo
I'm reading the
says,
chat now.
volatile,
I wasn't reading that earlier.
She said, yeah, I didn't trust him. Gustavo says, what did Mr. Combs say when you told him you thought Odie was recording? Ventura says,
You know what it
He said
is?
he'll
I be
take
I be
care of
reading
it.
the YouTube chat too, y'all.
Gustavo
So
says, are you aware of an escort
I be
leaving
forgetting about
comments
the
on Mr.
Twitch.
Combs' Instagram page? Ventura says, I am not. Okay?
Oh,
Gustavo says, now let's talk about rehab. Do you still do Suboxone? What is that? What is that?
Oh, I had the wrong guy.
Oh, it's a medication to treat the dependence on opioids. Okay, so it's something to help cure addiction for opioids. Cool. So she said something like that. Gustavo says, what does it treat? She says opioid addiction. AUSA says objection. They say overruled. Gustavo says you wrote a book in rehab. The place treats sexual compulsion. Oh shit. So it looks like Cassie went to rehab.
I'm cutting niggas up with my knife. I ain't gonna hold you.
Opioids. She went to rehab.
I'm really gonna pack it OD in this game.
Freakiness. She was getting sexual compulsion treated. AUSA says objection. They do a sidebar. They come back. Estavo says, did you get neurofeedback therapy? Neurofeedback therapy? What's that?
Yeah, I don't got this guy never
Neurofeedback
got
therapy is
Oh,
a form
thank
of
God, thank God,
biofeedback
this is
that
one of those.
utilizes
Ain't got no skins on this shit.
electroencephalography. It's electroencephalography. Okay, still pronouncing it with that. Very good quote. Anyway. EEG, to measure the brainwave activity and provide real-time feedback on individuals, helping them learn to consciously regulate their brainwaves. This therapy can be used to treat conditions including ADHD, anxiety, depression, and PTSD, as well as insomnia, learning disabilities, and addiction. Wow. So it looked like she was getting some brain type of therapy, maybe to treat her nymphomaniac desires. Like looked like she was a freak, like she couldn't control it, like she just loved to fuck. She said yes. They said, what is it? They said, well, they hook something up to your head and they show you things and they see how you react. Were you told the effects of it? She says, to help with my trauma. Estable says, Gustavo says, did you participate in EMDR? She says, yes. What does it do? Memories and processing them. The idea, and this is Gustavo saying, the idea is you recall prior traumatic memories like PTSD. Were you treated for PTSD? He said, yes. Ventura says, I was still physically developing. Gustavo says, you were 22.
Good looking.
Cassie says, women keep developing after 22. You don't think? Oh, by the way, this is why it's key to have a woman lawyer. This conversation can only happen between people. If it was a man having a conversation with Cassie here.
Nah, it's cause I was laying down. I was trying to be fancy.
If it was a man having a conversation with Cassie, and Cassie says, women we develop past 22, you're not going to believe the male attorney, right? You're just going to be like, bro, how are you going to tell a woman like that, right? But
And at the time,
women,
I had to reload.
It plays well. They just have a disagreement about it, right? Gustavo says, you're not suggesting you are still physically developing at 22. She says, I'm not. Gustavo says, the message is about having a freak off with ketamine, right? AUSA Johnson says, hey, can I confer with counsel? So the message is about having a freak off without ketamine. Cool. So it looked like Diddy wanted her to stop doing ketamine, right? The judge says no, but we'll take a break. The jury leaves, more is coming. With the jury out, the judge says, I need a witness list by Sunday 5 p.m. But this will and other files are clearly whatever. Now here they go on a real break. They're back. Estavo says, Mr. Combs wrote, you're so predictable. You said you were going to tell him you didn't want to do freak-offs anymore, but you didn't say it, did you? She said, I did not. Gustavo says, here you're suggesting freaking off with a girl. Gustavo says, you said you found a photo of Combs with Gina while you were staying with your parents in Connecticut, right? says yes. So now Gina Hill comes in. Gustavo says you decided to break up with him,
He got tired of
and he didn't threaten you, but he suggested to do some counseling. She says, I don't know. Pretty much says, I don't remember. Gustavo says, so by the way, this is another, another development.
So that's all you need. Okay. Well, the gift card numbers are 29322 9871 and 6339.
Everyone, go home. He just paid his outstanding taxes and gift cards.
Oz, for the fat classic first-timers. They don't know that nearly half of all used cars have been in an accident. But Carfax shows how accidents impact price. Shop the all-new Carfax.com.
For this reason, too. She's now finding out Diddy has other bitches. And when she finds out Diddy has other bitches, to try to compete, she's telling Diddy, yo, why don't we just bring some of these girls in? Again, sometimes a woman will want to keep her spot as number one by, as long as she feels like she's a leader, oh, bring another girl in. So maybe that's what was her thought. We don't know. All right, so she finds a picture of Diddy with Gina, breaks up with him, and they make it a point to say, Diddy never threatened you after you broke up, right? He's a suggested couples counseling. She says, I don't know. Gustavo then says, in August 2018, you called it closure conversation. Mr. Combs was inviting you to Burning Man, right? Ventura says, yes. Gustavo says, I'll read Mr. Combs. I'll read from Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs says, you have anger. Ventura says, I wrote, my family knows I'm not running around telling our business. Ventura then says, I wrote, I don't need you to be taking care of Kim and Gina. I needed you to put me first. So it looks like her jealousy was starting to rise. She was looking at Diddy to say, you're taking care of two other women, and I don't feel like you're putting me first. It's kind of like this idea that they have a swinger lifestyle, which that's Diddy's defense. It seems like it's kind of ringing true because Cassie's almost...
I got two of them now.
Again, swinger lifestyle doesn't mean necessarily cheating, but it looks like they're kind of showing that Cassie knew that Diddy had other women. And Cassie was just trying to fight and do more things to try to be number one, right? You hear what she says. I don't need you to be taking care of both Kim Porter and Gina. I just need you to put me first. Gustavo says, well, please read these. Ventura says, I wrote, you lied to me. She never went away. It was a nail in the coffin. Gustavo says, you mean Gina? The photo? She says, yes. So basically she's saying that, I guess Diddy was just like, yo, I don't fuck with her no more. And that's not true. Okay, let's keep it going, Chad. Gustavo then says, in your civil lawsuit, you said Mr. Combs raped you in September 2018, right? After you had dinner at an Italian restaurant in Malibu, right? She said, yes. Gustavo says, did you meet with the U.S. on November 30th? So did you meet with the feds November 30th, 2023? She says, yes, not the exact date, but yeah, I didn't with the government. Gustavo says, in this meeting, you said the rape took place after Mr. Combs returned from Burning Man. You said he was acting strangely at the dinner. Ventura says, I don't remember exactly that word. Gustavo says, did you meet the U.S. on April 8th, 2025? She says, around then. So, I guess this was their meeting pre-trial. It says, the message to FB. Who's that? Ventura says Frank Black, a name he used. Remember, Diddy's fake name was Frank Black. Her name was Jackie Starr. Gustavo says he wrote, I'm in an investor conference. We'll get back to this. Do you still have love for him? Ventura says, I have love for the past and what it was. So she hasn't ruled out that she still has love for Diddy. Despite her testifying, which by the way goes into my theory here, chat. I done told y'all, Cassie definitely wanted the money. But I don't think Cassie want to send this nigga to jail. I think the husband want to send this nigga to jail. I keep telling y'all. That nigga want to see Diddy dead or in jail for life. That's the only way you can get past some of the trauma that, as a man, hearing these things about your girl, you want that nigga to be dead. You know what I mean? You could kind of get over it a little bit better if you like, oh yeah, that nigga would be dead. You know what I mean? It's another sidebar. Gustavo comes back and says, yo, you wrote, I didn't mean to be a bitch. I just don't get the time. He writes, just needed you to be positive, correct? She said, yes. Gustavo says, DX 1309. He says, is this about a yoga instructor? She said, yup. Gustavo said, what'd you write? Ventura says, I've stopped even caring. Gustavo says, but you did care. She said, yeah. Gustavo says, so he said, you could date other people. Let's just talk about it, correct? Ventura says, yes. So it looks like they're showing that Diddy was down to let her go. Diddy was telling her, you could date other people. It's okay. Remember, they went to this Burning Man to have a closure. It's almost like a closure trip. But they could continue to have this closing, closure type of energy in messages. And Diddy was just saying, I guess Cassie's saying, I've stopped caring. Like, I'm done with this. I stopped caring. But then they're asking her, they said, did you stop caring? She's now saying, nah, I still care. Right? I still care. They said, so when Diddy says you could date other people, he said that, right? She said, correct. He said, what did you write? He said, Cassie then wrote, I do love you. I would just prefer not being one of your bitches or your girlfriends. Let's get up tomorrow night. I'll do studio from 6 to 9. So basically, when Diddy basically says to Cassie, because I guess Cassie is saying, you have multiple girlfriends. I don't want to be one of the multiple girlfriends. Diddy says to her, well, you could have multiple boyfriends, or you could have other guys. You could date other people. And Diddy says the only thing he said, let's just talk about it. So Diddy looked like he was down for her to do stuff with other people. She was saying, and I guess she was like playing chicken because she was active. Remember, she was like, yeah, I'll stop caring. But she cared, right? So now she's like, I love you, but I would just prefer not be one of your girlfriends, okay? Gustavo then says, he writes, can I hold you, or are you going to just break up with me? Gustavo says, and you write back, we can embrace. And then they ask Cassie, you wanted to hug him, right? Cassie says, that's what I said. Gustavo says, did you have sexual intercourse with Mr. Combs that night? She said, I did. Gustavo says, and during that, your now husband FaceTime. While Diddy is putting, he's dicking her down type shit, her current husband FaceTimes her during the fuck session. Okay? Gustavo says, your now husband didn't know you were with Mr.
Yo, what's the word, gang?
Cassie says, I don't know what he did. So basically, it looked like what happened, and what they're also establishing is that Cassie is a habitual liar, a drug addict, and a nympho. All of these things have been painted
what's the word,
really
gang?
well
He ain't say no.
Today and yesterday. They're saying, you gotta remember, her now husband is Alex Fine. He is the guy who was a trainer that Diddy hired. So he knew at some point Diddy was with her, but clearly they're trying to establish your new boyfriend told you broke up with Diddy, right? That's what they're trying to say. They're saying your now husband didn't know you were with Diddy at the time, right? They said, oh, I don't know Diddy. They said, well, later he discovered it, right? Now the AUSA realized, like, this seems more gossipy to kind of, like, hurt the feelings of the husband and kind of cause, like where are you going with this? Objection. The judge actually overrules it. Gustavo says,
yeah, these bitches protecting me, you heard? See my turrets?
Or you didn't tell your husband you were raped? Okay, so I guess they're saying you spoke with your husband, or the guy.
And I got the dead wire. You think a nigga could pull up on me? Like, come on, man.
Gustavo says after Miss Porter's memorial service, you wrote to him that you were going home. Why had he called Kim his soulmate? What was the 11 years all about?
And look after that is diabolical.
Now, this is around the time of the rape. So apparently, she was done with all of this, right? Let's Google it. So when did Kim Porter die? Kim Porter died in 2018. It looked like Cassie was severely hurt because she thought she was the number one for Diddy.
And I just
She thought Diddy loved her. Diddy was probably selling her a dream. She kept asking Diddy for kids. Kim Porter had kids with Diddy. Diddy probably was going along, buttering her up. She's thinking she's number one. She's like the attractive trophy.
Niggas
wife
getting
that
shot in
Diddy
their back
brings
by
to
my
the
turret.
carpets. She feels like that's why she keeps doing more and more freak off, whatever, to kind of edge out these other girls. The
Turret
Gina
is
girl
clapping
comes
them.
in. She starts trying to
Three
remix the
bitches.
freak off. Yo, you want to go freak off the girl? Like Cassie's doing a lot to become the main girl. She thinks she's the main girl. Kim Porter dies, and when
And they're
Diddy
gonna
writes,
get hit.
like,
Usually
this
the turn
long
and miss,
Instagram
but in this
post
spot, nah, you
after
gonna get
her
hit, nigga.
memorial service, Diddy calls her his soulmate, and Cassie is floored because now it's like, yo, the 11 years meant nothing. What? So now Cassie leaves. Supposedly that's when they break up. She breaks up with him. Diddy comes over, and supposedly that's when the rape happened. Okay, cool. So what was it 11 years about? Yeah, Cassie said yes. Gustavo says, was that hurtful? She says, at that time, yes. Gustavo says, after the memorial service, you never saw Holmes again. She said, I did not. He let you go, right? I never saw him again. I don't know about letting me go. So I guess the rape happened before the memorial service, right? And the caption must have happened before. Gustavo says, you got married to the love of your life, right? And the judge said, let's break. They're back. So let's get these couple things done before the jury returns. Gustavo says, we think it's appropriate for this message to come in. AUSA Johnson says, we have issues with phrases like, I'd like to reconnect. AUSA Johnson says, what state of mind is this offered for? The judge says there are portions that are properly admissible, so this needs to be redacted if it's going to be admitted into evidence. For example, the 5th paragraph, I've been getting my life together, blah, blah, blah. Gustavo says, all right, we could get that through other exhibits. The judge says you can redact it right now. Gustavo says we'll do it right now. Teddy Garagos, Combs, Teddy Garagos on exhibits and redactions. Says,
You just got the $120 cord fit you've been seeing all over your feed for $40, which means you also just got the $120 confidence of someone who knows what they're doing for $40.
My bad.
You know what they say. You get out, what you put in. I'm 2 steps ahead, I'm being a step ahead. We've got big goals in this kingdom. I built this, level by level, box by box. I've reached the top. New game, same dedication. No ads, never. I don't even need Wi-Fi. No risk, no rewards. It's time to level up. This is Royal Kingdom. You think this is a game? It is.
Cassie says yes. Gustavo says the house he grew up in Connecticut was relatively modest compared to mansions. She says yes. Gustavo says you were preparing to tour with a Mac Tesla.
Yeah, I threw 2 of them too.
Yes.
Right before you came. So there's 4 in this one little joint.
Once you settle your lawsuit, you cancel the tour, right? Cassie says yes.
Oh, they about to get me, mud. Oh shit, I'm back.
She got the 30 million from, or 20 million from Diddy. Gustavo says because you no longer needed money, right? Cassie said that's not the reason she cancelled the tour. Gustavo says after the hotel video came out, you posted an Instagram video saying that domestic violence is the issue, right? Cassie says yes, I still feel that way. So, ooh, remember that? So they're saying even Cassie was talking something to just domestic violence, not sex trafficking. This is thank you for all the love and support. Domestic violence is the issue. It broke me down to someone I never thought I would become. With a lot of hard work, I'm better today, but I'll be always recovering from my past. Thank you for everyone that's taken the time to take this matter seriously. My only ask is that everyone open your heart to believe in victims the first time. It takes a lot of heart to tell people the truth out of a situation that you're powerless in. I offer my hand to those that are living in fear. Reach out to people, don't cut them off. No one should carry this weight alone. This healing journey is never ended, but the support means everything to me. Thank you. Okay. All right. Gustavo says, Mr. Combs wrote, want to freak off one last time. What did you write? Cassie says, I didn't want it to be the last time. I wanted to freak off for the first time. So it looked like Diddy, when it's wrapping up between them, Diddy's like, yo, you want to do one more freak off for the, you know what I mean? For the one time? Cassie was just like, yeah, I want it to be the last time. So Cassie looked like she wanted to continue the freak off. Gustavo says, no further questions. Judge does a redirect, right? So now the AUSA gets back up. It says, Miss Ventura, you were shown this message where you ended, right? I don't want to freak off for the last time. I want it to be the first time for the rest of our lives. What did you say after that? Ventura says, yes, I'm horny. Just got over a UTI. AUSA Johnson says, you were shown messages today in which you and Sean were kind and loving. Ventura says, yes. AUSA says, did those period ever last? Combs objected. Judge overruled. Cassie said, no, they didn't last. They'd be a downslip. AUSA Johnson says, in what world did Sean open up to you? A world of chaos. In your 11-year relationship, who did you want to have sex with? They keep saying this. Ventura says, only him at that time. AUSA says, when Sean wrote, seduce me all day, what did you do? Write about freak-offs. AUSA says, were you able to cancel work obligations for freak-offs? Yes, if I was told to. AUSA says, when you were shooting the movie in South Africa and you blocked him, how did he contact you? Through Mia. By the way, I think this is they're putting a bridge through this idea of Rico and organization, and Mia's Diddy's former personal assistant. So now I could imagine Mia's going to come up soon. By the way, I'm going to read you guys donations in a bit. AUSA Johnson says, he said he didn't remember hurting you. Did you believe him? Ventura says, not always, because I knew him. There were times he was pretty aware of what he was doing. It's just who he was. I'd seen him be violent with other people. AUSA Johnson says, on the way back from Cannes, what did Sean do? He played in a video. By the way, they access it. The AUSA is like double up. A lot of stuff. But I guess they want this to be the last point of the 30 years. Played a video of me having sex with an escort. AUSA says, what did he say he'd do? Ventura said he said he'll release it. After AUSA says that when you guys in New York, what did Sean ask for? A freak off or he'll release it. AUSA Johnson says, when Sean wrote you ready for tonight, what did he mean? A freak?
Are you Austin Gilbert?
New neighbor invited you over for a drink at 8.
You don't know my schedule. This is my neighbor Craig. He's the best. There's nothing to be nervous about. Just be yourself. You hit that hard. Sorry, my money smells really bad. I've got to get to this Renaissance fair.
I'm sturdy. I got my century turn planted down.
Lawsuits. She said no. AUSA Johnson said, would you give back the $20 million if you hadn't had to do free costs? Gustavo says objection. Judge says overruled. Ventura says I would give it back to get my agency back. I guess it means my innocence back, right? AUSA says, did he beat you during the free costs? She says yes. She starts to cry. Ooh, okay, she's about to be a drop mic moment, you can tell. AUSA Johnson says, were you open to freak offs at the beginning? She said at the beginning. AUSA says, did you tell him when you no longer wanted to do them? Yes, more than once. AUSA says, what concerns? did you have about saying no to free calls? She said safety, career, love. AUSA Johnson says no further question. Judge says, Mr. Stavo, this is going to be a recall. So Stavo says, wait, hold on. You knew Mr. Combs' sexual preference was these free calls, right? She said, well, I learned. Gustavo said it was part of being his girlfriend, right? Cassie says, yeah. Gustavo says, you kept your old device, right? She says, yeah. It's okay. And free call videos in this case. So they're saying that Cassie kept videos of free calls. They said they were all on those devices he kept from 2012.
I think I dropped a loop key.
She said,
I picked up another one, so.
Gustavo says you were able to stand at his side at the Met Gala, being his girlfriend.
I should have
gave
picked
you
it.
access to producers, right? She says yes. Beyond Kid Cudi, what other musicians were you put in the studio with? Were you put in the studio with Nicki Minaj? Yes. There was a fake post saying Nicki's name got brought up.
You got the thing in here.
It was only, this was the first time Nicki's name was out. It says, Gustavo says, were you put in the studio with Lil Wayne?
Yeah, but the shit I got,
Cassie
no,
says yes.
I think it was like
blue.
blue.
With Rick Ross, Pusha T. She says yes. She says, am I forgetting any names? She says, well, you've got a lot of names. Gustavo says you're self-conscious about your musical talent. She says, I wouldn't say that. Gustavo says, you've had a bad performance on 106 Park, right? She says, early in my career. Gustavo says, you did music videos. Were they successful? The judge says, can we have a brief sidebar? Gustavo then comes back and says, D-Rock is like a member of your family, right? She said, like a brother. Gustavo says, the assistant Mia, you also had a friendship, right? She says, yes. Gustavo says, okay. Here you begin an explicit message, and he responds with one. You're actively sexual. Gustavo says, you stated that you were feeling overwhelmed after filing your civil lawsuit. She says, yes. Gustavo says, well, didn't you receive a settlement for the Intercontinental? She says, no. Gustavo says, you made a demand. He says, yes, 10 million, maybe. Anything further? Okay, so it looked like they threatened to sue the Intercontinental. We don't know if she got the money. We don't know if she got the money. She made a demand. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if she got the money. She was. Said she was in talks with them and agreed to the 10 million. Oh, yo, the Diddy's investigators are going. They brought up something that nobody should know about. Cassie just agreed to a settlement. That means somebody from the Intercontinental leaked it to Diddy's investigators. That's it. Oh, okay. So, he said, oh, she didn't receive the settlement. Oh, she didn't receive the settlement. Okay. Judge says anything further. USA Johnson. So this is like a redirect. Says, I have one question. The judge says, I was asking Mr. Stavo, did you wrap up in 2 minutes?
I'm about to pack my knives now.
Says,
everything packed now.
This is the last thing I'll ask you. Says, thank you. And she reads, we need closure and understanding. AOC Johnson then goes for 2 minutes and says, why did you keep your devices? Cassie says, I was afraid of
Nigga, I went to go pack. I'm coming up.
Him to the Apple store. Gustavo, and then they go to Gustavo and says, you have one question. And it says, you just reached a $10 million settlement with the Intercontinental last week.
Bird
right?
down.
Before trial. It says objection. And it says overruled. Yes. So $10 million. She's going to get the 10. Here's the thing. As part of that $10 million settlement, there's an NDA. I'm actually surprised they didn't make it even a bigger thing. There's an NDA. They should have said relevance, whatever. Like, what the fuck? Who cares? But even though there is relevance, she has to answer this honestly, though, because it's a criminal court. The criminal court trumps everything to do with okay. They're gonna break. They're gonna bring up an FBI agent, and the FBI agent is gonna be the person who investigated the case. Wow. Let's go to here.
Got a question for you, Ben.
Wait, what?
Christina. Do we know
that shit just glitched. That shit
will be testified?
That shit brought me on a whole nother side of the map, dog.
I want to see the lunchtime, like.
Nah, that shit just glitched crazy.
What's going on?
Get late, right? Because she might be. Three.
Let's go to Fox 5.
Where's the melee macchiato? Oh, I'm going to the machine.
Oh, by the way, so Cassie's done. Her lawyer did do a press conference. So her civil attorney did do a press conference after she got on the stage.
It's hard to put into words.
I feel like I passed the trap. I don't know where the trap at.
This thing is a bag collector. He secured 20 from Diddy and 10 million from Enterprise. This guy secured the bag.
Oh.
Cassie Ventura.
Talking about this trap.
Since we filed her civil complaint in November of 2023, she has shown such great courage and bravery for stepping forward, and she has now testified throughout the
Yo, no, I was about to get the kills with the trap. Who did that, bro?
difficult circumstances, just about to give birth to her third child, and under some very difficult circumstances because of the subject matter of what
She crazy, wasting my money on the shit.
Putting that aside, she was able to do so poignantly. She was able to do so graciously. And,
Nigga did bad on the block. Like, what the fuck?
Who she is and the support that she has. I have a statement from her, and I also have a statement from her husband, which I'll read in a moment. Before I do, the three people I want to thank. Most importantly, I want to thank my partner Meredith, who's here, as well as the other attorneys who worked on the case at our firm, including Kat Mask, who's also here. And I also want to thank, of course, the excellent attorneys in the U.S. Attorney's Office who have really been great lawyers, but also just great people who have made Cassie feel comfortable in the process. Would also like to thank the court staff who have made our appearance this week easy, the Department of Homeland Security, the marshals, and with that, I'd just like to read a statement that Cassie just prepared, as well as her husband.
Yeah, now I can use mine.
I'll read Cassie's first.
Got the melee macchiato and it's packed twice.
But also remarkably empowering and healing for me. I hope that my testimony has given strength and a voice to other survivors and can help others who have suffered to speak up and also heal from abuse and fear. For me, the more I
just got a nigga off me real quick.
the more I can remember. And the more I can remember, the more I will never forget. I want to thank my family and my advocates for their unwavering support, and I'm grateful for all the kindness and encouragement that I have received. I'm glad to put this chapter of my life to rest. As I turn to focus on the conclusion of my pregnancy, I ask for privacy for me and for my growing family. And then I have a statement from Alex Fine. Over the past 5 days, the world has gotten to witness the strength and bravery of my wife, freeing herself of her past.
Yo, shout out to the kick chat, man. I think my boy Aiden in the chat over there. Aiden, what up, boy? Yo, Aiden, you got a burner. Yo, does Aiden have a burner? Oh, that's not Aiden. Oh, I was about to say, what the hell?
It's been speculation online surrounding how it must feel for me to sit there and listen to my wife's testimony. I have felt so many things sitting there.
Oh, this is the husband's statement now. Jesus.
I am glad to put this chapter of my life to rest. As I turn to focus on the conclusion of my pregnancy, I ask for privacy.
By the way, yo, James Tonic, thank you for the 150 subs. Holy shit. My boy over here, he dropping the bag. 150 big subs, bro. Everybody, big W for James Tonic. Oh.
Are you looking for a rewarding union job in New York City? We're hiring youth development specialists to supervise and support young people in detention. The starting salary is over $53,000, plus you can earn overtime. Health insurance, sick, and vacation pay are included. You may also be eligible for student loan forgiveness, and NYC residency is not required. Join our team as a youth development specialist. Learn more at nyc.gov/YDS.
She alone broke free from abuse, coercion, violence, and threats. She did the work of fighting the demons that only a demon himself could have done to her. All I have done is love her as she has loved me. Her life is now surrounded by love, laughter, and our family. This horrific chapter is forever put behind us, and we will not be making additional statements. We appreciate all of the love and support we have received, and we ask that you respect their privacy as we welcome our son into a world that is now safer because of his love. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate the media's attention to this case.
I think I can get myself up. Wait.
Did you take questions?
Yeah. I got quick revive. Keep that on your.
Chop that nigga up two strikes. Nah, the katana is too much. No, we gonna hold it.
I think that's the cool thing.
Come on, just got one right now. Let's go. Come on.
So it was a little different than we've seen, you know, on prior days, especially for opening statements.
What else? We're just trying to recap a bit. I guess the black girl.
The most powerful part of Cassie's testimony today.
This is Fox 5
And probably out.
Lisa Edwards is out there.
Of all 4 days that she was on the stand, came during questioning about the $28 million settlement she received after that civil lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs. The defense tried to imply that money was tight for her at the time and asked her if the reason why she canceled her scheduled tour overseas was because she now had millions of dollars. She responded by testifying and crying on the stand, saying, "I'd give that money back if I never had to have freak-offs. If I never had to have freak-offs, I would have had agency and autonomy, and I wouldn't have had to work so hard to get it back." Her husband left the courthouse after sitting through testimony nearly all week, listening to his wife detail all the alleged sexual abuse she endured over 11 years. An audio recording was also played in court of her confronting someone named Sujit, who said they had video on their phone of Cassie pleasuring herself and having sex with someone who wasn't Diddy. More texts between Diddy and Cassie were shown of Cassie showing enthusiasm for the freak-offs, not something she said she wanted to do, but did it to please Diddy as her career took a backseat, saying it became like another job, setting up the freak-offs, preparing for them, and recovering from them. Cassie also testified that she went to rehab for opiate addiction and still takes medication for it. One of Cassie's lawyers spoke out after she wrapped testimony.
Everything that she's gone through in the 10 years or so with Sean Combs, her drug addiction and her recovery, to be able to come into this courtroom and testify for the last week on these very
done to save herself. Cass
Yeah, we're just trying to get some more details about her testimony. I think it's a good time to go and watch it, right? So this will be at least the first half of today. Let's see more details.
This morning was the most explosive day of the Diddy trial. We are on day 5, and it's the second day of cross-examination of Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who the state alleges was trafficked by Diddy for the vast majority of their 11-year relationship. Now, on the first day of cross, things were kind of slow, and a lot of people here thought the defense was making no headway. Today, they've been more on the attack, more of an interview style that they had yesterday. And today, they've definitely been somewhat more aggressive. Early this morning, they played an audio clip where they were trying to show the hostile side of Cassie and trying to perhaps make her seem a little less charming than the defense admitted that she was, by sharing an audio clip of her yelling at an individual named Sujit. Now, Sujit is someone she mentioned, she talked about on direct, as a person who had told her that he had access to sexually explicit videos of her that someone else had gotten. And there was speculation this morning that may have come that Cassie and Diddy both thought that the video may have been leaked by Jonathan Odie, which I'll let you raise your own speculation about that. But
I had got it already. I ain't gonna lie. I went to I had a Lukey out. Like I already run the other way.
Sounded very desperate and angry, and that we don't even
We both gotta watch our back, gang.
Sujit was responsible for this video, and that she was threatening that she was going to effing kill him. I'm going to effing kill you. I won't do it myself. I'll have someone else do it. I've never killed anyone before. And also asking, why are you being like this?
War Machine, I'll take that.
I would share it.
That shit fire. War Machine? Oh my god. They give you some machine gun that go fucking nutty. That shit like a LMG but better.
Given the nature of what she was facing in that particular moment, that people say, I'm going to kill you all the time. So, whether or not that impacts the jury, I don't know. But the other strategy that the defense has been taking today is that they have been trying to attack her memory and trying to relate and convey to the jury that her memory is not something that is any longer reliable. And how do they do that? Well, they brought up the fact that she's been through therapy, where she had neurotherapy, and they had electrodes that she said were basically placed on her head, and the second type of therapy, which was also designed to try and help her memory issues and process through that. Those memories. On the one hand, you can say that the jury might take that, yeah, that's how much trauma she sustained as a result of the defendant. On the other hand, their objective was to try and say that her memory is not reliable, specifically with reference to a sexual assault that she alleged happened in August of 2018, near the very end of her relationship with Diddy. She testified on direct that after having dinner with him, when they were going through their closure period, and when she brought him into her house, that he attacked her, and she was screaming no, no, no as she was being sexually attacked. Then he finished and left. And she admitted that a month later, she engaged in consensual sex with him, which a lot of people raise eyebrows at. And when asked that question, she said, "You don't just stop loving someone after 10 years." Well, that has been the focus of the testimony and the cross-examination in the latter part of the morning session here. Specifically, she was questioned about the fact that in her civil suit, the defense claims that she wrote that the attack did not happen in August of 2018, but in September. They also claim that she changed her testimony. That
You can have whatever you like.
And that's what she wrote in her civil suit. But now
Yeah.
August. This is consistent with what they were addressing earlier, that the memory is not really reliable. Or that she's manufacturing her testimony because they say after you were shown something by the state a month ago, now you're coming in here and saying that it happened in August. And they showed further text messages designed to show that even down the stretch a month later, on or around when she ended up engaging in consensual sex with Diddy, what she said was consensual sex, and the state wants us to believe that the defense wants us to believe that there was never any assault at all, that never happened. And they're trying to say, like, there's no implication from any of your text messages afterwards that he assaulted you. You seem to be completely fine with him and engaged in consensual sex. At this time, you were dating another man in September of 2018, and the point being that she was cheating on him with Diddy, and that Diddy was okay with her dating another man, and that even while she was out with Diddy, she did not tell her then boyfriend, now husband, that she was out with him, and that he tried FaceTiming her while she was out with him, and asked her, "Did you have sex with him? Were you having sex with him while your boyfriend was trying to FaceTime you?" And she said, "I don't remember what we were doing. I know I was with him when he was trying to FaceTime me." So the objective here is to show that she's not like the virtuous saint that she seems to have been portraying on the stand for the last 4 days. And furthermore, that her memory is not trustworthy. One final point I want to give to you is that they were asking her during this section when they were talking about her feelings for him down that stretch after the alleged sexual assault.
Good looking.
That they said, "Did you hate him?"
Good looking.
She said, "No." They said, "Do you hate him today?" And she said,
Yo, why does she keep putting me somewhere else?
"Do you still have love for him?"
It's been years since my daughter passed.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send you the stream. This shit moved me.
I've spoken with an angel. It showed me a way to be a mother again.
Hey, yo.
We can bring her back.
It's printing time, baby.
We were just trying to get some more sources about what the fuck happened. I think we kind of got it. Like, that's the ending of Cassie's testimony, right? So, yeah.
Sean
I think
Combs'
this
legal
is
team,
this.
it seemed like that means, I guess, and then just videos.
Yeah, if someone's not in court, actually, I want to do this.
Again, it wasn't 20, but today she's been very calm, very measured, especially considering the audio clip that we heard of her threatening to kill someone. I looked over at the jury box because I was wanting to hear their reaction as we're hearing in real time her voice threatening several times to kill someone because she's concerned about this freak-off video, and the jurors were shocked. I saw the eyebrows raised. I saw them listening, and I think to hear her voice in court and see how calm and measured she is, and then to hear that side of her. Again, it was in 2014 that this audio clip was something that she recorded, but clearly she's threatening someone who she thinks might release the freak-off video, and she's worried about it.
And the person that she was threatening was one of Diddy's associates. Correct. So you saw the jurors' reactions to that audio.
Now he gonna come get you, bro.
What was Diddy's reaction? What was Cassie's own reaction when she heard her audio?
She
Why he
just
stopped?
kinda
Why it
looked
look like he
down.
ain't
I mean,
getting
she
you?
wasn't, and it was hard for me. I had to literally, I have a great shot of the jury.
Nigga, he need to
Where
get
I'm
you.
sitting, I can see Sean Combs. I have to sort of raise up to look at Cassie Ventura, but she seems to
Y'all
be
can come
very
get me because I
calm.
got the ray gun. I can
think
shoot
she
everyone
knows
around.
that some of
Alright,
this
look.
evidence was going to come out. So she's answering the questions, yes, no. When she doesn't remember something, she's very clear about that. But the prosecution, the defense has been trying to poke some holes into the testimony she gave about the alleged rape that she said took place.
Damn, that's
towards
me.
the
I
end
was
of
really
their
trying to get the boss.
relationship.
How are they
Lady.
trying to poke holes in that alleged rape that took place?
The timeline. They're looking at the timeline. They're asking her questions. Well, was it this time or that time? They're also looking at around that same time she was still talking to her.
That's a
dating,
bad
she
habit I
says,
have.
her
Like
now
when I be
husband,
so
Alex
focused on
Fine.
killing a
So they're
nigga,
trying
like
to really, in many ways, I think what they're trying to do is question her credibility.
So Cassie was asked about receiving a FaceTime from her now husband while she was having sex with Diddy. Is that again the case of the defense trying to poke holes in her story?
I think that's where it goes back to how much can we trust this person.
that nigga Pluck
because
trying to
they're
run
entering
card.
evidence with
Nigga
phone
MJ nigga
records
just hit me up.
and different things to show, well, you were with this person at this time, or you sent that message, but yet you were dating this person. This is about a criminal enterprise, and there are several elements to that don't necessarily speak to if she was in bed with Diddy or if she was FaceTiming her now husband. So I think they're trying to use what they can, again, to discredit her overall as a witness, because this is also about beyond a reasonable doubt.
Diddy's personality, his temper has come up, and today his own defense lawyer said, could it have been his bipolar disorder? What was the reaction in the court?
Right. So again, this is a moment where the prosecution is asking Ventura about testimony that she gave. I didn't see a reaction, so to speak, from the jurors necessarily when this issue came up. But again, it speaks to these mood swings that they've been talking about that he has, that Ventura has said 1 minute he could be nice and he could be kind, but with the drugs and with the alcohol, it was a completely different person.
Prosecutors are hoping that Cassie's testimony wraps up today. They're afraid she's going to go into labor over the weekend. What are you hearing inside of the courtroom and rumblings as to whether or not she will be wrapped up today, and what would happen if she doesn't finish her testimony? What would happen to the case?
To watch someone who is that far along in their pregnancy breathe, kind of take their time, ask for breaks. It's not shocking that they want to get her off the stand so she can focus on having.
Wow, I didn't even know the crafting table was right here too.
Messages are being revealed today.
I kept going downstairs by the
One
pack.
text message in particular, Cassie writes, "I'm lost without you." How damaging was that text message?
Honestly, Rachel, there have been several text messages where she shows that she wants to be with Sean Combs for the rest of her life. We know now that she called herself Cece for Cassie Combs. We know now that she wanted to have a child with him. She saw herself as a wife. So to say those things at this point is not that surprising. But even the defense ended their argument with a text message from 2012, which appears to show Combs saying, I want to do our last freak off. And then she said something to the effect of, I don't want it to be our last freak off. I want it to be the first for the rest of my life. That's what she said. But what was so interesting is on redirect, the prosecution showed the context of that text, where she then says, I don't want to do freak offs anymore.
That's a head spin right there.
It is. And I think you could feel that energy in the courtroom.
Right.
Because I looked over at one of my colleagues and I did I write this down correctly? So yeah, I mean, but that's sort of what makes this case so interesting, because you have someone who is in this long-term committed relationship, and they say they had breaks at times, but 11 years is not something to sneeze at, and that was a long time that they were together. But it was complicated, it's complex, but Cassie Ventura maintains throughout that she really didn't want to do these freak-offs, that she just wanted to be with Sean Combs.
We're anticipating that on Monday, Dawn Richard will be taking the stand. What might we expect to hear from her testimony?
So Dawn Richard, they're calling her Dawn Richard. Okay, she didn't take the stand yet. I think we kind of got all the angles. I think we could probably move on to this investigators side of things.
I'm Carlos.
We kind of.
You want to go shopping?
I want to see if there's any videos of them in the courtroom.
I'm trying to do everything. Like I'm trying to still get the criticals with this gun too. Cause I ain't even killing the special zombies. I just peed. Like,
So let's get back into it. This is now, we have Cassie off the stand, and now we have a special agent that's going to take the stand. Then Dawn Richard, if you want to call it that. So why is this? So we object to the
yeah, but
testimony
y'all
of the
niggas
witness
killing them
after
too.
special
So
agent.
like,
So why is this coming up at 3:30? Blah blah. So good afternoon, ready to work. So this is now Special Agent Yasin Binda, at HSI in the human trafficking. I'm in crisis negotiations with as well. AUSA says, did you serve subpoenas in this case? Agent Binda says, yes. When Sean Combs was arrested, where did you go? They say it's a Park Hyatt Hotel, room 215, where you stayed. The folders of answering shows to the jury. He says, what did you do? We assigned a letter to each room and began to search. So what was your role? I took photographs of items. I signed them on the 60514 form. So what was found in the closet? He said there was photos of plastic bags full with J&J baby oil and Astroglide. Are you fucking kidding me? Wait, no fucking way. No way. Yo, Diddy gotta be an idiot. Yo, if your house gets raided and they're running it in the media that they found 1,000 bottles of baby oil at your house, my nigga, why the fuck would you still be having baby? You know they're trying to run a narrative, my nigga. Like, nigga, I don't care if you're using it for action. This nigga, I'm gonna be ashy now. Bro, they found the same shit. Oh, Diddy really was still thinking he on top of the world. Remember, they raided his mansions in Miami and LA. They found 1,000 bottles of baby oil. And then, when he gets arrested months later, they find more baby oil in the hotel that he was staying in. And they find lube and ecstasy. So it's basically saying this nigga was still doing freak offs while he was preparing for the indictment. This is crazy. It says, what was found in the bathroom? Several bottles of baby oil. So did he really on some shit like you want to see everybody listen? He says, AUSA says the bedroom. What you find at Louis V bag? He says a medication in the name of Frank Black. So basically, the stories come together. Diddy was using this moniker, the pseudonym, Frank Black. It says, hold on. AUSA says, and what is this? It says bags of pink powder found in the medicine bottle. So the stipulation showed agreeing that it was found and tested by Customs and Border Lab, Patrol Lab. AUSA reading from the strip, this pink powder was found to be ketamine, MDA,
I got myself.
ecstasy in the bottle. The physical evidence is passed around to the jury. So what was found in the black mini backpack? It says $9,000. It said, please take the cash out the bag. They does, and they're fanning out the bills. So Diddy had $9,000 in cash, had drugs, Astroglide, baby oil, even at the last moment of freedom. AUSA says no further questions. The judge says any cross. Tenny Garrigo says in the hotel, so Tenny is back up. She says in the hotel room, did you see any bags and clothing indicating that women were staying there with him? Agent Bender says yes. The judge says the U.S. may call this next witness. It looks like they rest after one question. Right? So, all right, well, y'all got it, right? Y'all got it, right? AUSA says, yo, the government calls Dawn Richard. And Dawn Richard takes a stand. Says, where are you from? Dawn Richard says, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. AUSA says, from 2004 to 2011, who do you work for? Puff, Sean Combs. AUSA says, do you see him? She says, yes. Pointed him out. AUSA says, who's depicted in this photo? She says, Cassie, in 2009. Did you observe an incident between Puff and Cassie? Dawn Richard said,
Granger knows that if you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, you go to great lengths, and sometimes heights, to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Granger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery. So you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
the black skillet with eggs and tried to hit her over the head. Cassie dropped to the ground. So what did she do? She went into the fetal position. Then what? Dawn Richard says Sean Combs was kicking her in the head and body, then dragged her up to the first floor. Glass is breaking and there was yelling. I was scared for her and for me too. Did you intervene? Dawn Richard says no.
Hit that trial, that little Sam trial.
Police. She says no. AUSA says the next day, what happened? Dawn Richard says that it had been passionate and she was okay. That it would be better if we didn't talk. That people could come up missing. AUSA says, how did you understand that? Dawn Richard says, death. Aguilera says objection. They have a sidebar. Back from the sidebar, the judge says, jurors, you can leave for the weekend, watch the Yankees play the Mets or the Knicks. If you're not into the sports, there's a lot going on. Basically saying, just don't look into things discussing the case. See you Monday. Okay? The judge says, Mr. Richard.
Oh nah, it took me out the.
About this line of testing.
Oh nah, I left my ray gun in there.
It should be Mrs. Richard. Right? This is Dawn Richard. It's about this line of testing. Comey says this shows consciousness of guilt for count one and relevant to count one. Aguilera says it's not sex trafficking, it's domestic violence. The judge says, why didn't you bring a motion in Limelight on this? Aguilera says, I did not know. Aguilera says, we can't sit here and say Ms. Ventura did anything because of this event, because she didn't talk about this one. So it's rank speculation. The judge says, but she was there. Aguilera says, she doesn't know the effect on Cassandra Ventura. The judge says, who are the next witnesses? AUSA says Kerry Morgan and David James. Wow. Oh, that was an assistant. Now, there's two city assistants that's going to testify this. Mia and David James. Mia and David James are testifying this. Interesting. Okay, so we're caught up. Cassie's off the stand. Dawn Richards is still on the stand.
Baby oil, candles, also seen
I know you saw that lightning strikes.
a couple of times. In this instance, Cassie's
Damn, I left my ray gun, guys.
said during a freak-off they would fill an entire baby pool with baby oil. Cassie said that they specifically used Johnson & Johnson brand baby oil that she would get from a drugstore. And in this exchange, the defense attorney says, quote, just to clarify information not in the record, there were no drugs in the baby oil, correct? To which Cassie replies, not the ones, no. Then the attorney says, no, never in your experience, right? To which Cassie says, no. The defense attorney says, quote, if you took drugs, you always took them orally, right? And Cassie says, yes. And the defense attorney then says, you testified yesterday that you would heat up the baby oil, right? And Cassie says, correct. That's a key exchange, not just because it paints a picture of just how much baby oil it would take to fill up a small pool and that they heated it up for a freak-off, but in October of last year, a civil suit was filed by a victim who went by Jane Doe, who claimed that the baby oil that was found in Combs' house was laced with the date-rape drug GHB. Now, Cassie testified yesterday that she has tried different drugs during her relationship with Combs, including GHB. Here's the exchange. The defense says, quote, it was a special time
to also experiment with different drugs, right? And Cassie replies, we definitely experimented with different drugs. Yeah, the defense then says, quote, and some took and some didn't, right? Cassie answers, yeah. The defense says, you tried psychedelics, right? Uh-huh. Cassie says,
Turn around, bro.
GHB? Asks the defense, and Cassie says yes, as well as she admits to doing ketamine. So GHB is something that Cassie says she took, but it wasn't, to her knowledge, laced in the baby oil. Another
Fuck.
shows that Cassie would go
I got
to
trapped because I
drugstores,
ran
not
where a
just
nigga
for
came
baby
from.
oil, but for candles, saying, quote, I'm going to Dwayne Reed to grab candles, and I'm going home to pack us a bag. Do you want my reg clothes,
Shit blew my,
BTW,
bro.
or just sweats? Then I can go
Niggas
check
lost
in
they
and set
fucking
up
raid.
I'll eat, take my vitamins, LOL, and get ready before I leave the house. Just want to know what you're thinking. After the testimony Cassie first gave about the alleged abuse she suffered at the hands of Combs.
Welcome to a moment of calmness from One A Day. That's right, a calming moment from a vitamin brand. Wait, don't zone out yet. One A Day multivitamins help provide nutritional support for your well-being as part of a healthy lifestyle. Whether you're navigating a busy day or seeking quiet reflection, One A Day vitamins are here for you. Choose clarity, choose wellness, choose One A Day multivitamins. Science that matters for nutritional support. Grab your One A Day vitamins at your favorite retailer today.
In this part of the transcript, the defense points out that Combs apparently volunteers to go to a store to buy supplies, and they say, quote, in fact, there were many occasions in which he was picking up supplies for the freak-off, right? And Cassie answers, quote, he picked up supplies. Yeah, that is another defense attempt to make the freak-off seem more consensually planned than...
Hard for the defense because what they need to...
These are, so finally we get the first set of transcripts.
Oh!
Black, think about it. This is act on the consistency. I'm gonna read donations in a second.
Nah, I had to get up out of there, chat. Shit got
I don't really have
spooky.
legal guardianship of him,
Shit
but
got
for the next
spooky,
48
chat.
hours, he's with me. So, and we gonna go full.
I had to get up out of there.
Going crazy.
Crazy.
When Sean Diddy Combs' properties were raided in March of 2024, there was a lot of speculation about what might be found inside and whether it would be connected to any of his celebrity friends and acquaintances. As Homeland Security agents poured out of his mansions in LA and Miami with boxes full of electronics, there were rumors that Combs filmed his elaborate sex performances called freak-offs or other parties. There could be video evidence of possible criminal activity. And the celebrity at the center of a lot of rumors, warranted or not, was Justin Bieber. But now, during week one of Combs' criminal trial, the singer has officially responded to allegations that Combs may have abused him as he was coming up in the music industry. We're going to talk about that right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. He was discovered when he was just uncharged among Sean Combs' victims. There are individuals, he quote, although Combs' sex trafficking, the biggest rumors that has been hanging over the entire Diddy saga was, and is, was Justin Bieber a victim of his alleged predatory and inappropriate behavior? Well, I'll tell you what, now, as week one of Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial comes to a close, Justin Bieber's camp is finally responding. So his representatives told TMZ, quote, although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who were genuinely harmed by him. Shifting focus away from this reality detracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve. So to talk about this, I want to bring back on former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Nima, so good to see you.
Wow. So it looked like, you know, Justin clears his name, but he's not picking up for Diddy. He's actually almost saying that, yo, Diddy is a monster. He's just saying, I'm just not gonna lie and say the nigga fucked with us.
Only has 75 years of the guitar. I ain't gonna lie, but he's sourcing up though.
All right, let's talk Diddy again. It is a smashing day for the defense. I think that they're doing a great job on the cross-examination of Cassie, getting her to admit things without getting too aggressive, really doing a nice job, as well as confirm that it was a female attorney that was doing the cross-examination, She gave her the light hand of, hey, you're a very beautiful woman, you are a star in your own right, really complimenting her to make her feel comfortable before they start to get her to admit to a lot of things that are actually helping the defense greatly. That they were swingers, that there were certain times that she enjoyed things, that there were certain times that she did certain things, that all these different things that she's admitting to because she feels more comfortable. And the way that the cross-examination is going is really, really helping the defense, and it's the smartest way to do it. Really, this is not someone who you want to get aggressive with right off the bat, which I think they probably will end up getting a little bit aggressive with her on some of the questions, but a lot of the questions are very soft-handed because you know she's going to admit to a lot of these things, so there's no reason to have her fighting.
Suck
So
my
they
dick.
open with a lot of soft questions like, you know, you're a star, and you were a real important person, and build her up, build her up, build her up, and then get her to admit.
And it's
that
like the shit that getting me tight. I keep dying right when I buy all my Persigons. Right when I like.
So it starts to undermine and undercut what the government is trying to do here, and it really puts an exclamation mark on where is the line here, where she didn't enjoy things, where she did enjoy things, where he would have known that what he was doing was against her will, the drugs that were being taken, the red carpets that she was on, the sex that she was arranging for herself. Really nice job so far, and I think that, like I said before, this is setting the tone for how the defense is going to keep going in this case. All right, let's talk Diddy again. It is a smashing day for the defense.
Okay, all right.
I would have to twist circumstances.
Yeah, so again, what we're waiting for are a few things.
Can you save money and still get reliable phone service? With Tello Mobile, the answer is yes. In an era of overpriced everything, Tello Mobile comes with an excellent phone service that actually has the best prices. Super customizable phone plan options that start at just $5 a month and go up to only $25. And the best part, you're free to tailor your plan to fit your needs and budget. Tello Mobile, phone plans just the way you like it. Visit Tello.com to discover more.
Well, that's not illegal, but if it's now a tool that's being used in a sex trafficking, sexual context, yes. To show that you continue to have baby oils and astroglides and those drugs, to show that Diddy has been, you got a RICO is for conspiracy, but to show conspiracy and racketeering, you have to show. And you establish a pattern when you show that this person keeps doing the same type of things over and over again. Diddy keeps with the baby oil. Got baby oil at the crib, they get seized, he go get some more. Yo, the Astroglide, he go get some more. So that's kind of what it is, right? Interesting. Let me get this guy on the end of the day.
Day 5 at the Diddy hearing, and we just concluded the testimony of critical witness Cassie Ventura. You're likely aware of the fact that Cassie Ventura is a longtime girlfriend of Diddy, dating on and off for a period of 11 years in 2007-2018, and she was one of the 2 individuals that the government is claiming was trafficked by Diddy. We were in the middle of the second day of crossing, go for lunch, and after lunch there wasn't much headway that the defense managed to get in trying to break down.
I think I gotta recheck my augments because there's no way.
That they got from her is she admitted that the videos that the government introduced as exhibits.
Wow.
Videos from the
I'm so dumb, bro. I just noticed if a nigga don't get you in a certain amount of time, you lose more of your I never knew that.
So remember the idea that Diddy was the one who was saving videos because he was such a freak and a creep. We get to realize Cassie, who claims she's traumatized by the event, she had.
Yeah, I went for the insecure.
However, she tried to explain why she had. She said, I didn't want to bring it to the Apple Store again, and I was too scared to go look at what was on it. I guess. But she knew what was on it when she turned it over to the top.
Those videos were from 2012 and 2013. Yes. Well, that was a point that would be brought up and addressed on redirect. I just want to read
Yo,
through the final question that was
I can't.
asked on cross.
Y'all know
And that
36
was
is my max.
text exchange between
And
Diddy
anything
and
beyond that,
Diddy said, "You want to freak off one last
I
time?"
can't.
And she responded, "What?" And he said, "You can't read?" And she said,
Good
"I don't
looking.
want to freak off for the last time. I want it to be the first time for the rest of our lives." And she said, "That's what it says." And the defense said, "No further questions." Well, right away, the state on redirect jumped up and said, "Let's read a little bit further there," and they read further testimony in that speech where she is explaining to Diddy that she is
Yeah, I can't do nothing for
feeling
y'all.
emotional, that she's getting off her meds, and that she just was dealing with a UTI, and that she never wants to have another freak off again. They also addressed the issue with respect to the cell phone, saying, "Why did you hold on to those broken cell phones for 10 years? And she said, "I knew there were videos on there, and I was afraid I couldn't take it to an Apple store because I was afraid that someone would find the videos on there, and I wasn't able to get a chance to delete them." So she was afraid to have.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, like, I definitely went down with the ray gun, but I would have been sturdy, like, yo, the fact I lost it.
Of buttressing up whatever issues they felt was knocked into her testimony, and
I got another key, I'm going back.
that they landed was they were talking about the incident that happened when she was flying back from Cannes to New York, and
Now my ray gun was dead packed 3 times.
while they were in Cannes. While in Cannes, Diddy accused her of stealing drugs from him, and got very angry with her, threw her off
The gun I'm using now is packed 3 times too, but like, it ain't that. It ain't for this man.
really hard throughout the movie, and then when they were flying home, she tried moving seats away from him. After she moved seats away from him, he followed after her and managed to sit next to her. And she said for the entire flight from Cannes to New York that he opened up his laptop and was playing a video of her freak off right there on the plane in front of everyone, and or anyone who would pass by at the very least, and that he threatened her that if she doesn't do what he wants, he's going to release those videos. And so this incident was brought back up, came up initially on direct, came back up on cross, and now on redirect. The state brought up and said, "What did you do that night when you got back from Cannes? You did a freak off. And why did you do that? Why did you do that?" "Oh, because I was afraid." "And what were you afraid of?" "Well, I was afraid he was going to release videos if I didn't do what he wanted." "And was there anything else?" "I was also afraid he was going to get angry." "And what happens when he gets angry?" "When he gets angry, he gets violent." Now, that was the first real time. That's really the first incident that Cassie specifically identifies. This is a night that I spent engaged in those encounters where I did not want to do it, and the only reason she did it was because she felt that she had no choice. She talked throughout her testimony about how she was coerced and compelled, but it often is laced in with this aspiration of getting Diddy to show her love and spend time with her. And that might make it difficult for the jury to actually convict him of trafficking. However, at least now the state has an opportunity to point to no less than one night that we know for certain that she felt compelled, based on his conduct earlier that day, she felt compelled to perform in a freak-off and engage in a sexual encounter with a stranger. She also said that she never wanted to have sex with any other man throughout the relationship during the entire time other than Sean. That she was continually seeking and creating attention exclusively from him, and that she never wanted to be with any other men. And that was designed to displace the notion that the defense was trying to plant in the mind of the jury that she was that she was sexually adventurous or was looking to engage in these adventures for her own personal benefit. Now, on recross, there was an electric moment which made the entire audience gasp. And they gasped harder on this than anything I saw throughout the 5 days that we've had trial so far. And that is that on recross, the defense brought up and asked her if she is expecting any more money out of this case. Now, on redirect and on direct, she had said she stands nothing to gain from this case, that she has nothing pending, she has no lawsuits pending, she stands nothing to gain from the outcome of this case, and that's a critical thing that the prosecution will frequently ask witnesses in order to help show that they're not tainted by some sort of financial bias or an incentive that if they help in a conviction here, it's going to help them personally. And she had said both times that no, I have nothing to gain here. But the shocking gasp came from when she was a lawsuit with the Intercontinental. She admitted that she did sue the Intercontinental. She asked if she got paid money from the Intercontinental. She said no. She said, and then the follow-up from the defense was, are you anticipating any money? And she said yes. And she said, how much? She said, I'm not sure. Can you ballpark it? She said around $10 million. That caused the entire room to gasp. Now, then there was another redirect, a second redirect, where the state brought back up and said that you stand nothing to gain from this case. Is that not true? Yes. We have nothing pending. Yes. So whatever outcome here, everything is exactly the same. Yes. And then there was one last question from the defense before she was able to step down, and that was, when did you reach your settlement with the Intercontinental? Wasn't that last week? And she said, no.
You think it's too fast, gang?
And just when that question was asked, I'll tell you that the room I was in, which is not big, it's not a courtroom, it's a viewing room meant for journalists and reporters and those interested in what following the case. There was a very loud gasp of shock from the entire room. Now, it does
Like this ain't the map to use pretty guns. Like you gotta use the guns that like like feel me, like I be trying, like that's the thing.
doesn't have any impact on this case. But we need to recognize the fact that the law and legal impact does not necessarily translate into how people feel emotionally. So I'd like you to weigh in. Do you think the fact that she got $20 million from Diddy and additional $10 million from the Intercontinental should have any impact on this? Please drop a comment below.
Also should have impact, but I think you are going to think about that. I think you are going to think about it. Now, it would be an idea of maybe she would like to see conviction because the liability of those who were in or around this idea of urban traffic, they basically owe her, or they could be
And you got on
sued.
stamina. I didn't even have stamina on.
She has nothing more to gain. It's clear that she still collected the bag, or she's down to collect the bag.
Look how they pulling up. I didn't even have stamina.
And they supposedly got a settlement as late as
I keep dying. Like every time I buy shit.
I guess you would definitely weigh it. I'm not sure because she got the $10 million for the Intercontinental. If I'm just thinking about that one fact, and
Look how your health still going. It's like, yeah, that's how I die. It's like I shoot, run away, but they yoke me up on the last two joints. It's like, damn.
We will see.
My vape died.
Mike Kemp,
I think
Patriot Software's founder. I have a
I
huge
think my
respect for
shit keep
small
lagging because I was
business
charging
owners,
my. I
especially
don't know.
the smallest of small
Maybe
businesses.
because I was
They
charging
do
my.
so much. They're under so
Oh,
much
now you
pressure
dated.
and stress. They have to be experts in business specialties like payroll taxes, bookkeeping, and accounting. It's crazy. That's why we created
I'm
Patriot
surprised you don't
Software.
run
To make
PH
accounting and
Flopper.
payroll simple for all size businesses, especially smaller businesses.
That would've
Check
got
us
you up
out
out
at
of there.
patriotsoftware.com.
He trying to keep this shit going forever. Why his shield going down so slow though? Look at it, gang.
He using the red shit. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
What red shit?
The red shit, they killing themselves too when they hit you. That's it.
I think we're live, guys.
Good looking, Kenny. I appreciate you.
I think we've exhausted damn near
Subscribe, Kenny.
every angle.
I'm on YouTube too.
Every angle on this Diddy and Cassie case. Week 1 is not concluded. If you ask me if I had to score week 1, if I had to score week 1, what would I score? I would say Diddy's up.
Let me know when the round about to
I
be done.
would
I'm going to
say
the kitchen real quick.
if we're scoring them like rounds, I think this is a 10-9. I think obviously some of the details are jumping off the page because we're seeing a lifestyle that we're not probably into, or we're seeing a non-traditional sexual lifestyle. However, I have to say, I think Diddy's team is doing a good job of showing that Cassie was consensual with wanting to do this at a large majority of the time. It was her idea a bunch of times, and also he gave her a lot of opportunity to leave. When he finally was done with her, he had no threats, and yes, he had a temper. They both had a drug problem. They both were getting high together. They both were violent. I think those things helped Diddy in a RICO sex trafficking case, as opposed to if it was just domestic violence.
Cassie Ventura has a.
Oh, here it is. This is what we.
Can you talk
This is a freak off video.
more today about what was inside Diddy's hotel room and heard striking testimony from Dawn Richard. I'm going to be breaking down what happened in today's courtroom with Elizabeth Millman, law and crimes reporter, who was inside to hear and see it all. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, after 4 days of harrowing testimony, Cassandra Ventura has finally stepped down from the witness stand in Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex trafficking racketeering trial. In her account, that spanned allegations of physical abuse, rape, coercion, alleged
I gotta go pack. I don't got no pack.
$20 million settlement. This painted quite a picture of their decades-long relationship, and it gives the jury a lot to think about. And I gotta say, I think it made this case a whole lot greater, particularly after cross-examination. So we're gonna break down everything that we learned from today's proceedings, day 5 of this bombshell trial, and also what we can expect to come. So to help me do that, I want to bring back on law and crimes reporter who has been inside that courtroom for every second of these proceedings. Elizabeth Milner is back.
Good looking, no bullets.
So good to see you. First of all, I gotta say, before you came out to do your head, there was a little bit of like commotion out there. Basically, there's a lot of people watching this case. There's a lot of people outside that courthouse. Can you briefly explain to us what the atmosphere is like, both inside and outside the courtroom? It feels like that is the scene. That's the epicenter right now.
Absolutely, and look, there's been a lot of public interest in this case, not just from us in the media, but also those who just either want to get a glimpse of Diddy himself, want to get a glimpse of Diddy's family, and so there is never, just not enough people from the public who are here outside that courtroom. When I came outside today just to chat with you, Jesse, I walked outside and all of a sudden I saw a woman with kind of hair extensions in her hair. She was yelling back and forth with a man was yelling at her. It was pretty tense. I didn't know kind of what was going on, but a lot of people were crowding around him. I walk across the street and all I see are free Diddy t-shirts, which is very surprising, something I didn't see when I entered the courtroom this morning, but that was very early this morning, so maybe a lot of people were realizing it's a Friday, let me go to the courthouse, let me see what's up, and let me just see if I can get a glimpse. Because some people are still under the assumption Diddy just walks out of the courtroom every day, but that's not the case. He still goes back to NBC Brooklyn every night, every day after trial. But for the most part, there's still kind of a busy scene. Even right behind me, a lot of people kind of crowding around. Either the media is going to be out there, it's people with cameras, there's cell phone cameras, actual physical cameras as well, too, just trying to get a glimpse of what all this action is. Because, even with us in the media, the cameras still go all the way down the block. You can think of pretty much every big legacy station that is here at the courtroom covering this case. You can think of podcasts, you can think of YouTubers and influencers who just want a piece of this action to see what this proceeding is like, to see the spot.
Diddy because that's exactly what is happening. As far as inside the courtroom today, as far as the mood goes and everything like that, it was another highly anticipated day because we were wondering how the cross-examination of Cassie Ventura would continue. As far as those who were there to support Diddy today, again, it was definitely a different scene than it was the first couple of days of trial in that, his daughters aren't there anymore, his mother wasn't there, but, just, I do want to say as far as why they're not there, a source did tell me it's because the twins are about to graduate. It is graduation season, it's prom season, so they did fly back home in order to attend to those events. But as far as the support system that Diddy did have inside the courtroom was his sons, his 3 adult sons who are inside that courtroom today, Quincy, Justin Combs, Christian Combs, and then as far as Cassie's support system inside that courtroom today, you had her attorney, Doug Winter, inside that courtroom, Cassie's mother inside that courtroom, her brother, and then of course her husband, Alex Fine. And so a lot of people just in general were anticipating where this cross-examination would go, how the government would come back from the cross-examination, especially, after seeing a bunch of text messages that were either about, them being in love together or the sexually explicit messages that were talked about ad nauseum today. But that was kind of the mood and the atmosphere as far as kind of what's going down here at the federal courthouse.
Now, we've said this before, I'll say it again, there are no cameras allowed in this courtroom, unfortunately. There's no recording devices or transcribing devices that are allowed. But if they were, you know how much flawed milk the Roy Hickens who took the stand should substitute you after cross-examination. By the way, there was 2 other witnesses who took the stand too that are very, very pivotal to this case, which we'll get to. Overall, real quick, what did you notice from the jury today? What was their demeanor? Anything catch your attention about them? I know it's so hard to try to read what they're doing, but anything you can tell us about the jury?
Yeah, it's always hard to kind of read them, especially from where I was sitting inside the courtroom today. So I got that angled view, which means I got a lot of the back of their head. So I saw a lot of them, for the most part, doing what they've been doing all week, something that the judge even noted, paying attention. They were paying attention, they were jotting down notes, they were looking at exhibits. Again, still doing that tennis match between either looking at Ana Maria Escobedo doing the cross-examination, then looking at Cassie, or they're just focusing on Cassie. But there was still, as far as what I could see from the jury, it doesn't seem like they're bored of this case, maybe just yet. But for the most part, they are being very attentive. As the judge pointed out today, they're coming in on time. They are ready to serve on this jury, and they have been very paying very close attention to everything that's going on.
And that's interesting you say that, because yesterday, I think you were saying during the cross-examination, they looked a little checked out maybe. I was wondering maybe it was they understood where the defense's case was going. Was it a bit too repetitive? But I felt today's cross-examination was different. I'll tell you, one of the things that everybody's been talking about while you've been in the courthouse was apparently this audio recording. This audio recording that was played of Cassandra Ventura where she was apparently quite angry. This is interesting because in a case where the defense is trying to characterize everything that Cassandra Ventura allegedly went through was consensual and that Diddy's actions are being mischaracterized as criminal, what was this audio tape? What was the value of this audio tape? What did the jury hear?
Well, the value of the audio tape seemed pretty great to the defense. It was from 2014, and it was an audio recording between Cassie and somebody that she had worked with in Sujit. Now, Sujit's kind of important to Cassie's story because Sujit had told Cassie he had a sexually explicit video of her on his phone that somebody had told him about this video. And so she confronted Sujit about this because she had initially thought this was a freak-off video and just wanted to know where he had gotten this video, how did this video come into his possession. And so the audio was, I think, kind of a pretty bombshell moment as far as the testimony goes, because when you're listening to Cassie on the stand, she is very soft-spoken. She is very quiet and she is very calm, cool, and collected when she's answering questions. But under this audio, you could tell, and this was, more than 10 years ago at this point, but you could tell she was very, very upset while trying to confront Sujit about essentially this sexually explicit video. So it was taken in Atlantic City, and then the defense had kind of pointed out during this time Diddy was all the way in California, but Cassie had told Sujit on this audio recording, we'll figure it out, and asked him, so you saw a video of me pleasuring myself, and Sujit said that he did have the video, and he had this video on her phone, and Cassie says, well, it's not me pleasuring myself because you said somebody else was in the room, and Cassie repeatedly had asked, can I see it, can I see it, can I see it? Then she goes into, and this is probably the part that kind of may have worked in the defense's favor, she says, I will kill you, I will kill you, I'll put you in a desert, I will cut you. She says, I'll get somebody else to do it because you're effing with my life. She had said that, you know, this sugar honey iced tea is not cool, and you can take the first letters of those entire words to see what I'm talking about. But essentially, it was just kind of her screaming as she confronted Sujit about this sexually explicit video I talked about during the lunch hour. You know, I can understand why she would be noticeably angry about this, right? Like, it's a private video that somebody randomly kind of has in their possession. And so, you know, we all say things that we don't necessarily mean, such as, I will kill you. We kind of say that when we're mad. We may say it in jest. It's unclear, you know, she actually wanted to pursue this or anything like that. But for the most part, again, I can understand her rage in saying these things, but for the defense, it definitely was something that they were trying to paint it as. Maybe you're not as, you know, meek and quiet as you kind of portray yourself to be. You can get aggressive. You can go and be confrontational, and then you can use your boyfriend and his power to kind of make the threat a little more serious, because when Cassie was